For years, I believed wealth was just a matter of numbers in a bank account. Until I noticed something unsettling. Some women didn't just have money, they radiated a presence that transformed any room they walked into. It wasn't just about expensive clothes or prestigious titles. It was about invisible choices, habits almost imperceptible to the outside eye, yet powerful enough to change everything on the inside. The most surprising part? These secrets aren't unreachable. They're just rarely revealed. When I started paying close attention, I realized the real difference was in how they structured their days, protected their energy, and cultivated their identity. Nothing was left to chance. And when I began applying these silent secrets, my life took a leap I never thought possible. That's exactly what I want to share here. Not theories, but concrete practices anyone can adopt. If you want to learn the secrets that redefined the way I live, hit that like button and subscribe, because what's coming next might change much more than your bank account. It might change your way of existing. 1. They choose an identity before reaping results. The first secret I learned from wealthy women was that they never wait for results to feel different. While I kept saying I wanted to change my life, yet woke up the same way, reacting to problems and hiding behind excuses, they were already living as the future version of themselves they wanted to become. It didn't matter if they hadn't yet reached their exact goal. They already walked, spoke, and made decisions like successful women. I remember asking one of them how she managed to stay so confident even in the face of uncertainty. Her answer was simple and direct. I don't act according to the results I have. I act according to who I decided to be. That sentence changed everything for me. I realized I was trying to change my reality with the same mindset that had kept me stuck. That's when I chose a new identity, before any external change had even happened. I started almost symbolically, adjusting my posture as I walked, refining the words I used when I spoke, treating small decisions as if they were the choices of someone who had already achieved much more. At first it felt strange, even forced. But then something curious happened. My actions began to confirm what I already believed. Identity shaped the results, not the other way around. That mindset shift made me realize that adopting a new identity isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about deciding to be the person who has always been dormant inside you. It was liberating to understand that I didn't have to wait years or depend on external circumstances to live differently. The secret was to act today like the woman I wanted to be tomorrow. Comment: I decide my identity before the result. If you also choose to be who you want, even before the harvest. 2. They treat time like a millionaire asset. One of the biggest shocks I had when observing wealthy women up close wasn't how they made money, but how they managed time. I used to repeat the same old excuse: I don't have time. But if anyone looked at my day, they'd find hours lost in distractions, empty conversations, and endless scrolling on my phone. Meanwhile, these women acted as if every minute was a seed far too valuable to waste. I learned they don't live chasing the clock. They make the clock follow their priorities. Being around them made me realize that wealth isn't just having extra money, it's having free time to invest in what truly matters. They create non-negotiable focus blocks, guard their mornings like a vault, say no without guilt, and organize their schedules with the same seriousness an investor manages a portfolio. When I started applying this myself, the change was almost immediate. I turned my calendar into a reflection of the woman I wanted to become. I blocked time first for learning, for working strategically, and for taking care of myself. Whatever was left, I distributed among secondary tasks. At first, it was uncomfortable to say no to people and commitments that didn't add value. But then something curious happened. My exhaustion decreased, my clarity increased, and for the first time, I felt like I actually had time. I discovered that the phrase, "I don't have time," is almost always a disguise for "I don't have priorities." And every time I remembered that, I'd ask myself, am I living like someone who spends time, or like someone who invests it? That single question helped me cut excesses and create space for what truly moved me closer to the life I wanted to build. Comment: my time is worth gold. If you've also decided to treat every minute like a seed of freedom, not something disposable. They cut distractions like trimming excess. For a long time, I underestimated the weight of distractions. I thought 5 minutes on social media, replying to a notification right away, or leaving a browser tab open wouldn't make a difference. Until I realized those little nothings were stealing my biggest opportunities for focus. And when I started observing wealthy women, I noticed a clear pattern. They treated distractions like silent enemies. There was zero tolerance for anything that drained their energy. I remember one of them telling me, "Everything that pulls your attention away from what matters is costing you dearly. You just haven't calculated the price yet. That line haunted me. That's when I decided to clean up both my digital and physical environment. I deleted apps that only pulled me into autopilot, silenced notifications, organized my desk like it was sacred ground, and most importantly, began consciously choosing what I consumed, both in terms of information and energy. At first, it felt strange. The silence was heavy. The absence of constant stimuli made me anxious. But soon I realized it was that very stillness that gave me back my clarity. Ideas that had been suffocated began to surface. Projects I kept postponing started to flow, and even my body felt less drained. I discovered distractions don't just steal time, they steal depth. And without depth, no great creation is possible. Wealthy women aren't more intelligent or more disciplined by nature, but they are ruthless when it comes to protecting their attention. I learned from them that every yes to the superficial is an unspoken no to the essential. And the sum of those little no's is what makes someone unrecognizable in a short amount of time. Today, every time I eliminate an excess, I feel like I'm making room for something greater to enter. It's like trading noise for power, shallow for deep, distraction for presence. Comment: I eliminate what weakens me. If you've also decided to protect your attention as your most valuable asset. 4. They trust repetition more than novelty. When I started my journey, I sabotaged myself by believing I always needed something new to move forward. A new method, a new book, a new technique. I kept jumping from idea to idea, but at the end of the day, all I had was a pile of unfinished attempts. Until I noticed a pattern in wealthy women. They didn't get distracted chasing novelty. They stayed consistent with what they already knew worked. It was shocking to see how they repeated the same habits daily, almost like a ritual. Waking up at the same time, blocking off the same focus hours, revisiting their goals with discipline, taking care of themselves without needing extraordinary bursts of motivation. It wasn't glamorous or exciting. It was predictable, but it was exactly that predictability that produced extraordinary results. At first, I thought repetition would be boring, but once I started applying it, I realized consistency gave me something I had never found in the endless pursuit of novelty: trust in myself. Every time I repeated a habit, I built the feeling that I could count on me. And that trust was like a brick laid every day, building a solid structure no storm could knock down. I understood that repetition isn't a lack of creativity. It's a daily vote of loyalty to the person I've decided to be. It's the silent proof that I don't need external motivation to keep going. In that consistency, I found freedom, because I stopped depending on fleeting enthusiasm and started depending on the discipline of my decisions. From the outside, people might think my routines are monotonous, but I know they're exactly what create the extraordinary. The secret isn't inventing something new every day. It's repeating with excellence what already works. Comment: I choose the repetition that builds. If you've also realized consistency is the true foundation of greatness. 5. They treat money with respect before multiplying it. For a long time, my relationship with money was marked by anxiety and guilt. When I had little, I felt pressured. When I spent, regret followed. When people talked about investments, I pulled back, as if I wasn't worthy of the subject. But when I observed wealthy women, I realized the difference wasn't just in how much they earned, but in the respect they showed money in every detail. They knew exactly where each cent went, not out of stinginess, but out of awareness. They tracked income and expenses, organized categories, and asked themselves before spending, does this bring me closer to or further from the woman I want to become? I saw in them a clarity that seemed almost cold, but was actually maturity. And I realized that while I treated money emotionally, they treated it as a strategic tool. When I started applying this, it was uncomfortable. Facing bank statements, writing down expenses, admitting waste, it all stung. But little by little, that practice became power. I started spending less on impulse and investing more in things that truly made me grow. Courses, books, tools. Money stopped being a ghost and became a mirror. It reflected my choices, my values, and most importantly, my identity. I learned that respecting money isn't idolizing it, it's understanding it as an ally. Those who avoid facing their finances will never have autonomy. But those who take control, even in the small details, create space for money to flow more naturally. And that's what transformed my life, stopping using money as anesthesia and starting to use it as evolution. Comment: I respect the money I want to attract. If you've also decided to turn your financial relationship into a reflection of awareness and power. 6. They cultivate silence to hear what matters. In my early steps of transformation, silence felt like an enemy. I was afraid of being alone with myself. I filled my days with music, shows, notifications, endless conversations. Noise was like an anesthetic that kept me from facing what I really needed to see. But then I noticed something about wealthy women. They cultivated moments of silence with the same importance they gave to meetings or business appointments. I remember watching one of them one morning. No phone, no TV, just a notebook and a cup of coffee. She told me, "It's in silence that I find answers the noisy world could never give me." That stuck with me. I started small, with 10 minutes a day. At first it was uncomfortable, like my mind was screaming to run away. But little by little, that space became sacred. In silence, I heard my own truths. I uncovered ambitions I had hidden for fear of seeming arrogant. I acknowledged pains I had ignored to avoid feeling them, and I found clarity about choices I'd been postponing. It was as if my intuition, suffocated by overstimulation, finally had room to speak. I understood that cultivating silence isn't mysticism, it's strategy. It's where the mind rests, ideas flow, and discipline strengthens. Wealthy women know they can't lead businesses or teams if they don't first lead their own inner space. This simple yet powerful habit became one of the greatest secrets for maintaining balance, even on chaotic days. Today, my silence is worth more than many conversations. It's in silence that I find the lucidity that sustains my decisions. Comment: in silence, I find my power. If you also believe clarity begins when the noise ends. 7. They set big goals and embrace the discomfort of growth. For a long time, I believed it was humble to set small goals. I told myself it was better to dream small and avoid disappointment. But deep down, it was fear. Fear of failure, fear of not being enough, fear of being judged for wanting too much. Until I saw how wealthy women thought differently. They weren't ashamed of wanting big. Their goals were bold enough to make them uncomfortable. And it was precisely those goals that drove them. I remember the first time one of them asked me, "What's the goal that makes your stomach drop just by writing it down?" I laughed it off, trying to escape, but realized I had never allowed myself to dream at that level. I always aimed for the safe, the possible. From that moment, I decided to test it. I wrote down goals that scared me, doubling my income, transforming my body, launching projects I had only dared to imagine in silence. The feeling was like vertigo, standing at the edge of an abyss. And it was in that discomfort that I found my greatest growth. Each small win made me believe more, and each challenge taught me resilience. I discovered discomfort wasn't a sign of error, but of expansion. Growing fast requires courage, and courage almost always walks hand in hand with discomfort. Wealthy women understand it's not the size of the goal that limits someone, but the courage to own it, without asking for permission. I learned that desiring big isn't arrogance, it's responsibility. If you have the capacity to do more, hiding is a betrayal to yourself. Today, when a goal scares me, I know it's exactly the one I must pursue. Comment: I embrace the discomfort of growth. If you also understand that expansion requires the courage to want more than the obvious. 8. They align their outer image with their inner identity. I used to repeat the phrase, "What matters is what's inside." And of course, there's truth in that. But I discovered that many times, I used it as an excuse to hide. I dressed without intention, spoke carelessly, and accepted showing up in the world in a way that didn't match the woman I wanted to become. When I started spending time with wealthy women, I noticed something that left a mark on me. Their image wasn't about vanity, it was about presence. Every detail communicated who they were, their tone of voice, their clothing choices, the way they carried themselves when walking into a room. Everything projected confidence and authority, even without a word spoken. One of them told me, "Your image is the showcase of your identity. If you don't take care of it, the world will never see who you truly are." That sentence completely reshaped the way I showed up. I decided to align my outer image with the woman I was building inside. It wasn't about spending fortunes on luxury brands, but about intention. I started choosing colors that amplified my energy, clothes that made me walk with more presence, and paying attention to details like hair and posture. Small changes that, when added up, transformed my self-perception. Each time I looked in the mirror, I felt my appearance validated my inner process. The most interesting part was noticing how the world responded. People began treating me differently, with more respect and attention. Not because I had changed who I was, but because there was finally coherence between my essence and my expression. Today I understand. Caring for your image isn't superficial. It's strategy. It's the public declaration of the identity you quietly chose. Comment: my image reinforces who I am. If you've also decided to align what you show outside with the power you're building inside. 9. They don't waste energy on explanations. For a long time, I felt the need to justify every change in my life. If I said no to an invitation, I'd immediately follow it with a long explanation. If I started focusing more on my growth, I felt I had to prove I wasn't abandoning anyone. If I dreamed bigger, I'd apologize so I wouldn't seem arrogant. That habit drained my energy and kept me stuck in constant guilt. Watching wealthy women, I noticed something liberating. They didn't waste time justifying their choices. They decided, and that was enough. Not because they were cold or indifferent, but because they understood that every explanation given to someone unwilling to understand was an unnecessary negotiation of their own energy. One of them told me, "If you feel the need to explain too much, you're asking for permission to be who you should already be without excuses." That sentence flipped a switch in my mind. I began practicing silence. Not the passive silence of avoidance, but the firm silence of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. At first it was hard. I felt like I was being misunderstood, like people would judge me. But little by little I realized my results spoke louder than any justification. Those who truly wanted to support me never demanded explanations. Those who did weren't really ready to walk alongside my evolution. Choosing to stop wasting energy on justifications changed my entire posture. I felt lighter, more in control of my time, and less imprisoned by other people's opinions. I discovered that protecting my energy wasn't selfishness. It was maturity. Today, if someone questions my choices, I simply respond with presence. I don't need to convince. I just keep growing. Comment: I don't explain my evolution, I live my evolution. If you've also decided to stop asking for permission to be who you really are. 10. They don't try, they decide. For years, my life was run by the word try. I'd say, I'll try to wake up earlier. I'll try to take care of my finances. I'll try to start a business. The word seemed harmless, but it hid a trap. It was an open door to quit without guilt. Trying kept me stuck halfway, always with a ready-made excuse if something didn't work out. Observing wealthy women, I noticed they don't use the language of trying. They use the language of deciding. One of them told me, "While you're trying, I'm deciding." And that's the difference between those who achieve and those who only dream. Hearing that was a shock, but also a wake-up call. I decided to eliminate "I'll try" from my vocabulary. In its place, I began saying, "I do. I've decided. It's done." And something powerful happened. My mind started to understand there was no room to retreat. Decisions became internal orders, and my actions gained firmness. Even people around me began looking at me differently, as if they could sense something non-negotiable in my posture. I realized that deciding is about committing before the result exists. It's acting even when there are no guarantees yet. A decision creates a point of no return, and that's exactly where real transformation begins. When I stopped trying and started deciding, my discipline grew, my self-confidence strengthened, and results naturally followed. Today, I no longer say I'll try to be the woman I dream of. I say, I decided. And that small shift changed absolutely everything. Comment: I decide, and it's done. If you also understand that your next chapter begins with a firm decision, not a vague attempt. Looking back, I see that what truly transformed my life wasn't a sudden event or a magical opportunity. It was the sum of quiet, daily decisions inspired by the secrets I observed in wealthy women. I discovered that wealth isn't just money accumulated, it's the sum of conscious choices, choosing a new identity, valuing time as an asset, cutting distractions, trusting repetition, respecting money, cultivating silence, daring to dream big, aligning image with identity, protecting energy, and above all, deciding instead of trying. These habits seem simple, but when practiced consistently, they change everything. They showed me I don't need to wait years to live differently. Every day is an opportunity to cast a vote for the person I want to become. And the more I stay committed to these practices, the clearer it becomes that true transformation isn't about numbers, it's about mindset. The most powerful part is that anyone can apply these secrets. It doesn't matter where you are today or what you've been through. It all starts with deciding to take control of your identity, your time, and your choices. That's what helped me leave behind the lost version of myself and build step by step a life with more clarity, purpose, and abundance. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these secrets hit you the hardest? Which one are you ready to start applying today? Share it in the comments. Your declaration might just be the first step to solidify your decision. And if this content resonated with you, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Here, every video is an invitation to reshape your life in a practical, intentional, and powerful way. Because transformation begins when you choose not just to watch, but to act.